There's always somebody at work who you're challenged by, who give you the shits. Ask them what they think of you when it comes to your strengths.
Definitely don't ask your children.
Oh, why? What would your children say?
Jac Phillips and Gabriel Dolan are not your average podcast hosts. They're the superheroes of real-life experiences and witty insights. They've got more stories than a library, more rawness than a sushi train, more wisdom than a fortune cookie factory,
Because it's real.
and are way more real than this voiceover. So strap yourself in, people. Jac and Ral are keeping it real.
Welcome back to Keeping It Real with...
Jac and Ral.
I like that. Jac and Ral.
You're Jac Phillips.
And you're Gabrielle Dolan.
I am Gabrielle Dolan, also known as Ral, as I think we know by that now. Probably don't
Not
have to,
known as Gabby.
No, gosh, no. I think we probably don't have to say that all the time. Ral, Gabby.
I like it. I like it. Do you know that there are some people, certain people, that just cannot call me Jac? They have a real problem with calling me Jac. They must be saying it in their head with a K on the end of my name.
Oh, and they don't like it.
Yeah, they just find it difficult. They call me Jackie instead.
Oh, you're not a Jackie.
I'm so not a Jackie.
But your husband calls you Jackie.
Oh, he calls me many things.
He calls you Jackie all the time.
Jackie's one of the better things he calls me. Yeah. I don't know why. Anyway,
let's
we are.
get into it. Before we get into this episode, though, we've got
Mailbag.
more questions.
Mailbag.
Wow, last week's episode, we got a lot of questions about personal branding, which we're not surprised about because it is popular and you need to take control of it. So we've pulled out two of our favourites. Well, there was some similar. So
Let me ask the first one and you can answer this
all
one.
right.
So I think
Go
it's a
for
good
it.
one. So Adam has sent in a question and it is, I've made a bit of a mistake. I've buggered things up and I don't want to be known for this as my personal brand. What do I do? Good question.
Good question, Adam. In fact, we had a few people that had sort of said I've stuffed up.
Similar
How do
things.
it's sort of become part of my brand and don't want it to be. I think sometimes you just got to wear it initially. So if it's happened quite recently, it may be part of your brand. I think you have to own it. I think come up with a narrative or a script that when you're asked about it and when it happens, it's almost going, yes, I acknowledge it happened, that I was very immature, I'd made the wrong decision. Talk about what you learnt, so the really critical things you learnt about that. And I think if you own that and if you genuinely talk about the mistakes you made, the regrets you have, the lessons you learnt, and then move on, people will move on. And I also think people will probably move on a hell of a lot quicker than you think.
You do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's likely to be more of a concern for you, but I wouldn't talk about it for too long. I wouldn't talk about it for too often.
Yeah.
But you're right. Own it and
own it and
learn
move
from
on.
it. Turn it into a positive if you can and move on.
Turn it into a positive. You can turn anything into a positive.
Of course you can.
God, there's a whole other. I just keep thinking of new episodes. And we had another question from who was this other question from?
May Tam.
Right, and she asked a really good one. This is from the episode last week where we took everyone through a process of defining your brand, and we said ask people for feedback on your brand. And she said, who do you ask? Like, how many
Great
people do you
question.
ask? Who do you know to ask? What was your answer to that?
I say minimum 6, maximum 10. They should be people that know you really well now. We both spoke about that.
Yep.
No point asking somebody, 4 years ago. You've changed. You're a very different person today than you were 4 years ago. You've evolved. Well, hopefully you have. So between 6 and 10, and diverse, yeah? You want a good range, not just the people that report to you who might only ever tell you good things.
Yeah.
Certainly your leader, and I often encourage my clients to talk to their leader's leader. If they've got some form of relationship, obviously you don't need to be best friends with the leader's leader. They might not see you a lot or know you a lot, but they would know of you. So what do they think your strengths are? What are they seeing as your personal brand? And the other one that I think is a cracker is ask somebody that you don't get along well with at work. There's always somebody at work who you're challenged by, who give you the shits. Ask them what they think of you when it comes to your strengths. Yeah, they'll give you the areas of development for sure, but ask them. They'll actually tell you some things that you might not even be aware of that they've noticed, which is good, positive.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And I think even if you work maybe closely with a client or a
love that.
stakeholder,
External.
ask them. So you get, I think, diverse.
Diversity.
Definitely don't ask your children.
Oh, why? What would your children say?
Well, I can tell you what they say, Jac, because I made this mistake once. It was when I was going to Harvard for the first time. So you weren't there then. So I was doing an adaptive leadership program.
Oh, because you've been to Harvard how many times?
I'm currently on a sabbatical from Harvard.
Listen to you.
I just went to Harvard so I could say I went to Harvard. Anyway, I did learn some stuff.
Awesome experience.
Adaptive leadership program. And the bit of the homework, they said you had to ask 3 people that know you well what they would change about you.
Oh, that's a great question.
We're going out. So this was about 8 years ago. So Alex would have been about.
Alex is your daughter.
Alex is my daughter. She would have been about like 13, 14, and Jessie was probably about 10. And so we're out for dinner the night before I am going away, realising that I have not done my homework. No surprise. Remember, 50%.
50% inefficient.
D's get degrees. And so I asked the family. I thought I'd ask the family. So I posed the question. In a nanosecond, Alex responds with, admit when you're wrong. I was genuinely dumbfounded. And I was shocked. And I just went, I was speechless for a while.
Jeez.
And I'm serious. I was speechless. And I went, I don't think I have a problem at all acknowledging when I'm wrong. You know what she said? I rest my case.
Oh, she's
Bloody
masterful.
smartass. Jessie, I said, fine. Jess, what do you think? She goes, I think sometimes you say it's going to be hot and it's not hot.
Oh, bless
I was like,
Jessie.
my God, there's a weather app for that.
Yeah, I love that.
And of course, Steve, he's a smart man. He said he wouldn't change a thing.
Oh, love it.
Very smart,
man,
very smart man. So, yes.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yes.
Just saying.
Yes. Okay, so anyway, that's questions. Good. Keep them rolling in as usual. Today's episode, good one, another popular one.
Yeah, networking.
Networking. So, Jack, networking. Normally when you say networking, people go, oh, and they have really
visceral.
negative associations with networking. Why? Why is that the case?
It's a good one. I think it's one of those words that almost need to be rebranded, like retirement, because it actually means something quite different in many people's minds than what it actually is. That's what I would say. So when I think networking of the old, I think of a whole lot of pale, stale people in suits handing out business cards for no purpose, other than just to hand out business cards and make them feel good.
Yeah, it was almost like, I remember, in the 80s, it was like almost a competition to see how many business cards you could get.
I mean,
Just
what
ridiculous.
the fuck?
Yeah.
Silly. So I think networking has this negative connotation that it's inauthentic.
Yes.
And I think that doesn't sit well with people today. Yeah. And particularly, I think women struggle with networking. When you say, I need you to build your network, and I talk about this a lot with coaching, I can see them reel back like, oh my God, what do I have to go and do? Do I have to go and front up to someone and ask for something? That's actually not what networking's about. But I'm jumping ahead.
Or they think it's about promoting yourself, which again I think women
better.
tend to shy away. And we should say up front, when we ever say about women tend to and men tend to, it's very
Generalizations.
generic, but there is research to back it up, which we will talk about because we're going to talk about some stuff we did at Harvard.
At Harvard.
And we did a networking session. But I think, women tend to think I think we think networking is about promoting yourself.
Yeah.
And women tend to not do that, not comfortable with
Agree.
that.
Totally agree. Did I tell you about Dave?
No, tell us about Dave.
About 10 years ago, I had to go to an event.
Is Dave a dickhead or is that a spoiler?
I'll leave that for you to evaluate after you've heard my story. So I go to a networking event, 50, 60 people there, business event, fairly professional, quite senior level people. And somebody said to me, you've got to meet Dave. And I said, oh, great, okay. I didn't ask why. Maybe that's a lesson to myself. You got to meet Dave. He's awesome and he's a really great networker. He can introduce you to lots of people. I said, oh, okay. So I made a point of meeting Dave, and Dave talked and talked and talked and talked until my eyes nearly bled. And then finally Dave stopped talking, looked at me and said, oh, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think of me?
He said it as a joke, but probably not
Well,
joking.
he did say it as a joke, but probably not joking because he then went on to keep talking. So never asked one question, never sort of encouraged any anything from me. Now, I was happy to listen to Dave for the first couple of minutes, but then it started to get a bit dull, and Dave wasn't talking about anything particularly interesting. But I think the whole point of that is, if you're going to be good at networking, you're going to be curious. You're going to want to know about who you're talking to. You're going to want to be interested and build a connection. And you don't do that if you're just talking and talking and talking.
I remember I got some really great career advice really early on in my career about networking from my manager at the time, and he said, always look for a way you can help the other person. So it's almost like you said, be interested. If you are meeting someone and you go, right, okay, instead of my little game of how many business cards I can collect, crap, what about I'm going to find a way to help this person I'm speaking to? And so if you're doing that, you've got to be interested. You've got to let them talk. And someone said the saying, it's better to be interested than interesting.
Correct.
So, yeah, that completely changed the way I approached any networking event that I went to.
And how easy is it to help people?
Yeah. And, of course, when we talk about networking, I think the negative association is we go to networking events where networking is so much more
connectivity
than networking events. In fact, I would say networking events is one tiny, tiny little fraction of how do you build your network and stuff, tiny fraction. So did you have a definition? Did you have a definition of networking, or we just spoken about it?
Helping others.
Oh, right,
You're absolutely right. That's how I define networking. It's about learning and building connection with others in order to be able to help them. Because have a guess what happens when you help people, Ral?
They help you.
Genius.
Hey,
you helped me because you suggested to me some years ago that I join you at Harvard.
Yes.
One of the best experiences of my life on so many levels. A 1-week Women and Power course, as if we needed more power. Anyway, we're able to now share a lot of our learnings with our own clients. But there was that awesome woman, Stacey Beard Blackman, one of our lecturers.
And she did a session on networking. She was like a dynamite of a woman.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
Can you remember when she walked in?
No.
There was 50 women from all around the world. I think about 50% were from the US, which is where it obviously is, in Boston, and the other 50% were from like about 25 different countries around the world. And there was you, myself, Michelle, and one other lady, Christine, from Australia. And women being women, 50 of us. This is about day 3. We're all chatting and laughing and roaring, and Stacey Beard Blackman walks in to take the lecture. We hadn't met her before. We didn't know who she was, what she looked like. No one even noticed this woman coming in, and on hindsight, it's amazing that we didn't notice because she was amazing, huge presence. And we just kept talking, and she stood at the desk. I was watching her and looked around. She could see that no one had noticed she walked in. Nobody cared. They didn't stop. So she started singing at the top of her voice. Remember, this is a woman who looks like Whoopi Goldberg. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Aretha Franklin. Can you remember that?
I remember. And did we all start?
We all just swung around,
didn't we all start
looked
singing?
at her and started singing. So she just started the song, and we all, I'm going to say, I thought we were all in harmony. We sounded like an awesome choir. But she got our attention like that without screaming, yelling, chiming
Dinging
a bell, writing on the board.
Excuse me.
Hi.
That's cool.
Gosh, she was amazing. Presence.
Okay.
Anyway, she did run a great networking session.
She ran a great networking session, and some of the stuff she taught us, I know I continue to teach other people.
Me too.
And one of the things, she had this great quote, and I remember she put it up on a slide, and it was, she said, networking is a systemic and deliberate process of building and maintaining relationships that are mutually beneficial.
Helping people.
Yeah, and it was like, I remember she said, what are the most important things in there? And you go, systemic and deliberate. So you do have to be deliberate with this. Like we talked about brand, you got to be deliberate with your brand.
That's true.
Building and maintaining, and both of those are really important. And then mutually beneficial. So the reality is, if you start from a place of helping others, then they will help you.
It's very true.
So I love that quote the whole time. and yeah, I think a lot of people, where I see people go wrong with networking is they don't maintain connection.
Correct.
Have you got people in your network that they come out from under the bloody rock when they want something?
Yeah, and I'll help anyone, and I'll help as many people as I can at any opportunity because it costs me nothing to do that. But there is a theme of a few people that you only ever hear from, ever, when they need something.
Yeah.
And it's like, it'd be good to hear from you just out of the blue. How you going? Hey, by the way, I'm doing this,
Yeah. And I bet you they're the ones like you I've known people that they want your help. They want a referral or a reference and you do it and you don't hear.
No.
Like there's no courtesy of
no,
thanks,
here's where I got to with that.
I got the job or I didn't get the job but really appreciate. None of that until they need your help next time. And guess what? Sorry, not sorry. Not going to be doing it.
No, as frequently or as easily. I totally agree there. Totally agree. So, there's a tip early on is networking is about helping others. So be generous and go out of your way to help others without any expectation of any help back. But when you need it, it'll be there.
Yeah. And I think it doesn't take much to maintain. Like,
I agree.
like especially now, you got texts, you got emails. It's not you don't have to go have a coffee with everyone to maintain it.
Dreadful waste of time.
I used to work at NAB. I still know a lot of people that work at NAB, and I just know a lot of people at NAB. And I remember one day,
I just know a lot of people.
Yeah. But I remember I was going in the city, and there'd been like a big announcement that NAB were cutting, like, I don't know, 2,000 jobs or something like that. And it sort of came out of the blue. And I went, wow, I wonder if anyone I know is impacted. I literally wrote a text message, like just said, hey, just heard the news about NAB, hope you're okay, or,
And who was this sent to?
So I thought of one person I knew at NAB and I just sent her a text. And then I thought, actually, I know... I knew about 17 people. Now, it was just a copy and paste, but it was all authentic. Yeah. And I sent it, the amount of them that came back and said either thank you or no, our area is safe, but thank you for thinking of me. And now that was done from a genuine place of care, but it was done, a genuine place of care also could have been, gee, I hope Kate's not impacted by this, or I hope... And not send a text.
It's the fact that you were thinking of them and that they were aware of that.
Yeah.
Means a lot.
Yeah. And sometimes it's even just a case of, haven't caught up for a while, hope's all well in your world or whatever.
I just said it's not hard to care and it's not hard to demonstrate care, yet it's such it doesn't happen enough.
No.
And they say leadership's actually about care.
Yeah.
It's true, isn't
Can
it?
you remember with Stacey Beard Blackman, she did like a metaphor and she said some relationships need a hug. Like figure out who the people in your network
who need a hug.
Like it's a really close relationship. Some are just a handshake.
Yeah.
And she sort of said some are just like a tip of your finger.
Just
And what she meant by that is like sometimes you might need to maintain monthly or quarterly, and some it was like once a year
is enough.
And it like you said, you said LinkedIn before. It doesn't need to be text. It could be responding to someone's LinkedIn post or something.
Exactly right. See, this is where LinkedIn, I think, is just such a gift as far as a platform goes. So many people talk to me as if they know me really well because they see and follow and are engaging with what I'm posting. So it looks like and feels like that they're really very engaged and part of my life, which they are if they're following along. But I'm not actually doing anything with them. But I know if I went to them and asked for their help, I'd get it because they feel that there's a consistency in our relationship. So I think you're exactly right. There is this opportunity today, more so than ever before, because of platforms and because of technology. You don't have to be a LinkedIn professional at all. Using text, when you think of somebody, shoot them a note with no expectation.
Yeah.
I think there's something in that.
Yeah. So I think just on that too, like that's talking about it's a great way to maintain, but it's also a great way to build. So, I mean, I've had people who follow me on LinkedIn and are quite active, with comments, and at some point has asked to meet with me for whatever, and I say yes because I feel like we've known them. So they're probably been very actively building their network. So do you think, what do you do? Like, I know what I do, but we'll talk about how do you build your network?
Every opportunity I've got to connect with somebody, I embrace it. I say yes to it. Yeah. So if somebody says, "Oh, there's somebody I want you to meet," I'll always inquire, "Oh, why? What is it about that person that you think I would want to meet and that they would want to meet me? Give me some context. That helps." Because you don't want to disappoint somebody. If they've got a reason why they want you to meet that person, then communicate what that is. So the first thing is embrace meeting people or connecting with people. The second thing is it doesn't have to be a meeting. You tell a great story about coffee. How expensive a coffee is. Can I just buy you a coffee? I just thought of that just then. Can we just come back to that in a moment?
Yep.
So first of all, embrace networking. Say yes to connecting. It doesn't have to be turning up to anything. It could be connecting. Text, email, telephone, LinkedIn DM. Second thing is, if you need to build a network, one of the things I think that's really, really important is to not be fearful of reaching out to someone you've never met before. No, they may not respond, but that might not mean that they don't want to. You just might not be a priority. So always try more than once. If you've pushed out a message 3 times and you've had nothing back, then that's probably a signal. But that's okay. They're 1 in 250 million people around. I mean, it doesn't matter. So embrace connecting. Say yes. Number 2, actually go out and introduce yourself to people. Ask people for some help if you think they can help you, and do it very specifically so they're clear on what you want. And the third thing would be to actually build on your personal brand, which we spoke about in a previous episode, yeah? So be who you are. And if it is wanting to demonstrate that you are somebody that is a top marketer, for example, or a top storyteller, or somebody who's brilliant at consulting when it comes to rocket science, then what are you doing to amplify that regularly so that you're giving people a reason to connect with you?
Yeah. I think one of the things I speak to people about when they're looking at their network is the first thing you got to do is reassess it. So it's not the reason. Like assess your network. And what I mean by that, and this is fun. I had a friend of mine who would always at the end of the year would assess her friends and. She would rate them A, B, C, and she would go, I think I'm moving A down to a B. I'm not, and something I'm moving B down to a C. Or, I think actually this C's, and for whatever reason she'd reassess it. I actually thought it was quite crude, and it was like, oh my God, I hope you don't tell anyone that they're on the list.
She told you.
She told me, but clearly I was on A.
A.
But I actually think it's a really good technique. And it's when you look at your network, assessing who's in your network.
Okay, so the point behind that is there's a reason why they're in your network. So what is their purpose right now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it's not been, and so I think when it comes to networking, what I say to people is I actually take them through an activity and go, okay, list all the people in your network. So you've got them. And then assess them, assess it. And what I do is what's a current leadership challenge you're working on right now?
I like that.
And would that network help? Would that be able to help? Or look at the next job you have, and would that network be able to help? And also assess your network for diversity. Are you looking at your network and thinking they're all people I work with?
Yeah.
They're all internal, or they're all women, or they're all old. So it's look at your network and assess it for diversity.
Smart.
And then go, is this going to help me? And what a really great mate of mine, Janine Garner, she's written a book on networking called It's Who You Know. It's not what you know. Oh my God, Janine, I'm so sorry.
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
It's who you know, right. And she talks about the 12 people you need in your network, and you can not demote some, they're no longer of use. She goes, but sometimes they become friends. Sure. And so, you might have how can this person help me? And now again, it's genuine, it's mutually beneficial. But if you're say you're in you're working in a company and you're thinking you want to move on, and you look at your network and the only people in your network are the people in that company. Yeah. It was all right, well, I need to, or if you're trying to move industries, then you need to. So that's about how you go about building your network.
Correct. One of the things I coach on, particularly if we've identified a brand or an organisation that my client really wants to go and work in, and it's identify who's the senior most person there and reach out to them. But you're not asking them for a job. Instead, ask them what do they look for in talent.
Yeah.
You're actually being curious. You're trying to understand what it is that they look for when they hire talent. And what that does is it'll pique someone's interest in most cases. You may not always get a response, but that's okay. Ask them again. Just because they didn't answer the first time doesn't mean to say that they're not interested. You're not a priority. But it tells you a lot, and it's actually a really smart question to ask because it's giving you intel that you can then build on.
Yeah.
So there's ways about this. I think they're really smart.
Absolutely.
Have we got time for your coffee story? Just because it is a good one.
Okay, yeah. What's my coffee story?
Well, the number of people that say, hey, Ral, can I buy you a coffee? This is how not to network.
Yeah.
So tell the story about that. So this kept happening,
Look,
right?
This sort of does keep happening where people go, oh, can I pick your brains over a coffee? I'll buy the coffee. And in my head, I'm thinking, I know how much I charge a mentoring hour.
I know how much my brain is worth.
Yeah. And I know the price of coffee's gone up. It hasn't freaking gone up
It
that
ain't
much. I
gone
can tell you that right now. Look, I still do say yes sometimes to that, but I'm very clear of going, what do you want to
Be specific.
what do you want to speak to me about so it's not a waste of our time?
Yeah.
Our time. So,
Good. It's
yeah.
respectful.
Yeah.
Well done, you.
Okay, tips. Final tips.
Yeah.
I reckon we've got the first is
Evaluate
your network.
Every year.
Is this networking for you? Is it diverse enough? Is it forward thinking? Is it going to help you?
Who's in? Who's out?
And definitely look at the next role. Will it help you? When you were talking about questions, I think there's one around if you do go to networking events, like how do you make them? You say it's all about being interesting.
Yes.
So, and you've got some really good questions you ask.
Yeah. You could start with who's here you hate too. That's a bit of an icebreaker.
Dave.
Dave. Stay away from Dave. Best book you've read?
I often go, what's been the highlight of your week?
I like that. One.
Or especially out of COVID, it was like, have you got any holidays planned?
Yeah. What are you most excited about at the moment?
Yeah.
What's keeping you awake at night?
Yeah.
I mean,
Just
there's
ask interesting questions. People
questions.
like talking about themselves.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Okay, so evaluate your network. Think about who needs to be in it that isn't. Make sure it's a diverse network.
Yeah.
Chances are the people that help you get to where you are today aren't going to be the people that help you get to where you need to be next.
Maintain it. So find ways to maintain it. Don't be one of those
Use
people that
platforms,
just bloody
check
ask,
in.
contact when you need something.
I like it. Don't be afraid to ask what an organisation looks for in talent.
Yeah.
If you're
Good.
keen on that organisation.
Like it. Okay.
Was there anything else?
Think that's it.
I think that's
Think
it.
we're done. We're
Think we're
done.
done.
Another episode done. If you like what you heard, 5-star.
Or seen.
If you're watching us on Spotify or YouTube, you will be seeing us in back, bitches in black.
Bitches in black. She loves that.
And
Send in your questions.
send in your questions. That's it. Send in your questions. Okay, this has been another episode of Keeping It Real.
With Jac and Ral. Love ya. Bye.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jac and Ral. If you like what you've heard, don't forget to tell others about it and give a 5-star review. They may seem confident, but they really are sensitive 5-star needy souls. Yeah, right. Keeping It Real, created by Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan. Produced by Keelan Ferrari Brown. And this really real voiceover, spoken by Richard Phillips.